Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this October 17th, this Monday, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can listen to my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's on First Amendment. They also play the show at 11 a.m., and if you can't get it there, go to my long-standing website at arcticbeacon.com. That's arcticbeacon.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. Okay, it's Monday. Let's get the week started. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the petition first that I started for Pastor Tony Alamo, a Christian pastor who has been imprisoned on a sentence that's so unbelievable, 175 years for crimes he hasn't committed. And the allegations are so flimsy. I cannot believe it. It is really a sign and a symbol that the Obama administration, together with the Vatican, together with the Clinton cartel, nothing different, they're all the same, decided they cannot have anybody talking like the Protestant reformers did back during the time of the Reformation. I.e., that's why the Jesuits were formed back then. Most Americans don't even know that. I can go downtown and go into the grocery store today and poll 10 people, and you know what? Probably one or two will say, oh yeah, I've heard of that group. And many don't even know who they are. And boy, can they get away with murder with that kind of thing. You really have to study them. You really do. And, you know, I was listening today again. So this petition is there. Hundreds of people have signed up in the week we've started it. We started a website to free Tony Alamo. And really the reason that I wanted to put it together was to see the comments from people that I never had a chance to talk with all over the world that have been supported by Tony. And it's amazing. I've gotten comments from Haiti, comments from Colombia, comments from all over the world, Europe, America, Canada, you name it, Mexico. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because you know as well as I do, when you start a petition like this, it takes time for it to grow. And I email a few people that I know, and they sign up. They look at it. They go, sure, Greg, I agree with you. I agree. We can't do that. But, you know, we can't allow this to happen in our country. But how far does it really go? Can we get Tony out of prison? I believe so. I believe it can happen. And that's why we're doing this. So if you have some friends, please send out some emails. Please send out a notice. It's very simple. You can copy the link, say, please help us with this petition. Read up on Tony Alamo. Go to the websites, and you'll see the persecution that goes on behind the scenes. For people, I mean, Tony's not the only pastor or the only Christian in this country that has experienced this, and I've talked to a number of them. But I would really like you to go and look at that again. And on the website, you know, we even have some things there you can buy, free Tony Alamo t-shirts, free Tony Alamo mugs. We even put shirts for your dog that you can buy. And a lot of these things are important because people will ask you, boy, who's this Pastor Tony Alamo? And you can begin discussing it. And basically what I did is I found a company that'll make them, and the small little, most of the money goes to the company. There's a few bucks that come in over and above that we will use for speaking engagements, travel expenses, things like that, as I want to go around to different churches and talk about this and gain more support. Now, another thing you can do, off the website, you can copy and paste the petition, then make a couple other pages with numbers, 1 to 50, names, phone numbers, or email addresses, and have people sign that. And you can then scan it, send it back to me, and we can then add those to the numbers on the online petition. Another thing, there's a article written by a gentleman who's helped me and really came forward and put this together, this website together. His name's Robbie, and together we're working on it. And he wrote a little article, 10 Ways You Can Help Tony Alamo. You can find that on the website. Also, if you want, there's Tony's article, My Commutation, which explains a little bit about his feelings. He's 82 years old, in poor health, he's blind, and we want to get him out of jail as quickly as possible. The legal avenues, I'm not even going to discuss today. I've found, there's been a habeas corpus writ filed, which was denied, of course, by the same court, I am told. And there are chances to reopen that, but it's a long and it's an involved process, and I'm working on that right now to see if there's any avenue there. But probably it's so hard to get justice in this system, and you just have to pray and hope that we can find one way to get him out. Okay, let's move on to another subject. Okay, this is kind of a related to the last subject I was talking about Tony. But let's look at, I presented a couple shows last week on the Clinton, Hillary, and Bill Clinton body count. So amazing the number of people that have either been claimed to commit suicide or accidents when they get close to the Clintons, and especially those who might have information that would block their way to power. Have you ever seen anything like this? A couple. Has there been ever a couple in the history of this country that has infected it with more evil than these two? I doubt it. Now, we get a dose of Bill. Now we got to withstand a dose of Hillary. I don't think the country can withstand that. And it could be, and the reason this is connected to the Tony Alamo story is that Tony and the ministry had one of their ministries was in Falk, Arkansas. That's where this raid in 2008 took place. Now, Clinton, during the time that Clinton was governor of Arkansas for 12 years, he led the attack against the Alamo Ministry. I've gotten those statements from FBI agents who personally had talked to Bill about this. Secondly, it didn't end when he became president. So this thing was an ongoing battle to destroy this ministry, Clinton behind it. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of this guy. He has very evil friends. Even police officers would say, I'm not frightened of Bill. I'm frightened of his friends. And so we have this connection to the Clintons again. Now we have a Hillary Clinton running for president. Do you think that she would pardon Tony? No. That's one of the reasons why I hope Trump gets in. I'll be very clear about that. Hillary's just an extension of the evil of Bill, and it's probably worse. But the point I want to make is that you see this kind of corruption, and we have this presidential election going on, and I played the Clinton body count videos, and people realize that these people are evil, but they seem to enjoy it, don't they? And that goes back to the idea that the rulers of evil, taken from the Tupper Saucy book, that title, is something you really must look into, and I recommend you read that book. I knew Tupper. I've spoke with him many times before he passed away on the telephone, interviewed him, and we discussed a number of things regarding where the rulership of evil to this day comes from. And he had told me when we were discussing it, he said, well, make sure you read the chapter I wrote on the mark of Cain, and then we'll talk more. And I did that. So instead of, I'll do a whole show on that again, but please do that. Please go and read in the Bible the story of Cain, and then go to his book and read that, his interpretation of it. And his interpretation of this. It's quite interesting. And I remember after I discussed this with him and started to understand it, I said, maybe I'll go out and ask other pastors. Okay? Go out and ask other pastors. And I asked them a simple question. Do you think the rulership of evil, the extension of Cain, lives today in our leaders in America? Oh boy. I would say 10 out of 10 refuted everything. Their interpretation was much different. So that's a good question to ask your pastor. So I've given you 3 things you can do. Read the story of Cain and Abel. Then go to Tupper's book, which you can get online, and read that chapter Mark of Cain. And then go ask some pastors that question. Ask your pastor and see where it leads you. Okay, now, I wanted to discuss this today. I got into the story, the petition with Tony, but I did put a couple things regarding the Bill and Hillary Clinton body count last week. And a listener sent me something quite interesting. And I think we have to really look back to what the Clintons were like during the time of the Vietnam War. And, look, that's the war that I was eligible to fight in, so to speak. And so I go back a little bit farther than a lot of my listeners. And so let me tell you something. I remember saying this after the war was over. I said, listen, I hope America will never make those dumb mistakes again. And they continue to do that. Wars continue. It's never going to end. And I look back on those days, and I could go through a few things that happened to me, my life in Chicago at the time, the decisions I made. Look, I had very close friends in the Mayor Daley organization. I got jobs as a kid all the time. I used to, in fact, be a chauffeur for the third most powerful guy in Chicago when I was in college, just in college and then out of college, just out of college. And I was even courted to, his name was Harry Semro. I'm not making it up. Harry was the Board of Tax Appeals Commissioner. And he said to me, Greg, boy, you'd make a great alderman. And an alderman is a city council member. We call them aldermen in Chicago. He said, you're Polish. You speak well. We could really groom you and get you started in politics. And I said, Harry, I appreciate it. And he was a good friend of the family, etc. And even went to my wedding. But I said, Harry, I want to be a journalist. I got to find out the truth. And he laughed, and I turned down that offer. And so I went on and got my first job in Naples, Florida. And the rest, I've bits and pieces I've told you throughout the years I've been doing my show. But so I have an intimate knowledge of the Clintons. I researched them going back from the time Bill he went to the University of Arkansas, and he basically was a draft dodger. Basically, I wasn't. I was in a lottery system, and my number was, to make a long story short, was too high to be called. And the question becomes, would I have gone if my number was lower? I can honestly say I probably would have. Now, Bill was completely different. He decided to, when he was in Oxford and he took his physical, he was 1A. So basically he was draftable. But when he came back to Arkansas, he went to the commander of the ROTC program and begged to be a part of that, but he had to go back to school. So basically what happened, he then refused to go in, and even the commander of the ROTC came out and said Bill was a draft dodger and used this as a way to get out of going into the service. Now, during that time of his anti-war days in Arkansas, people remember he would take a mattress and go put it up in a tree, and he'd sleep up there for days, and people said they had to walk a block away from the stench. So I believe he was tapped at that point by the Jesuits for his role to become a leader of first Arkansas, governor, attorney general, governor for 12 years, and then president. Now, the one reason the Alamo Ministry has been targeted is because they tell the truth about the Jesuits in the Vatican, Bill Clinton's mentors, his handlers, so to speak. So no one can do that and not be targeted. Look at all the people that have been killed, his bodyguards, people that had evidence against his drug dealing. There were statements back during those days when he was even governor. There were taped recordings of his brother Roger saying, "I've got to get some more cocaine for my brother Bill because he's got a nose like a vacuum cleaner." There were statements knowing people seeing him using drugs. He'd come out many times saying adultery is not a crime. He even said one time to one of his bodyguards, he searched the Bible and oral sex is not adultery, or is not a sin. This is the man that was our president. And his wife is no better, probably worse, if you start looking into her background. So this is the beginning of Bill Clinton. And I thought it'd be good to show you. And I found someone sent me this, and it's a nice little clip about how the Clintons, I'll play some of it here, how the Clintons felt towards our police officers back during their days in the White House, their days as governor, him as governor. Hillary's story is, I've gone over Hillary's story, but she's connected to the hip to this man. They're no different. And just think about this. If you elect Hillary, he's in the White House. And who's to say that he won't be calling the shots behind the scenes? And this Clinton cartel has to end. But will it? But listen to some of the things that this documentary uncovered about some of the statements they made back years ago. And would this be the kind of people you want to lead? But it is the masses of people, because Tupper Saucy told me once, he said, you have to rule for sinners. All the rules of law are made for sinners. And I said, what are you talking about? And then he said, well, yeah, because how many people are, the saints are few and far between. So when you start thinking in these terms, this is why these people get elected. This is why they rule over the masses. And this is why there's the few people, many of the Christians who listen to this show, feel as if they're not a part of it. And we're not. We're just not. But if you understand it, that is the key. And it leads you into that open door that's very narrow, but very, it's the best place to be, so to speak. So let me play this, and you'll get a little idea of what they were like behind the scenes, Bill and Hillary. Let me get this up.
He said the troopers' reputations would be destroyed, and that they themselves would be destroyed. Larry Patterson even received a handwritten note expressing concern about his health.
Larry, did you fear Bill Clinton?
Personally, no, I did not. After I got to know the man, if it came to a confrontation between a policeman and Bill Clinton would always back down. No, I was not physically afraid of Bill Clinton. I was afraid of his power.
Larry, were you afraid of Bill Clinton's friends?
You betcha. You betcha. He had some people that was quite scary, yes.
Away from the public spotlight, both Bill and to a greater extent Hillary were contemptuous of policemen, whom they commonly derided as ignorant SOBs, says Trooper Brown. In 1984, Brown accompanied Clinton to a funeral for a state trooper who had been killed by a survivalist in rural DeQueen. Brown and Clinton went into a banquet room where hundreds of mourning policemen from Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana were eating. According to Brown, Clinton said, quote, "I don't want to go in and eat with those ignorant SOBs. Let's go to another room," unquote. Hillary was openly hostile, calling them pigs. One trooper said that Hillary forbade him to speak when he accompanied her on a trip to Washington because, as she put it, he, quote, sounded like a hick from Arkansas, unquote. Another officer said, quote, deep down that woman really hated Arkansas, the people in it, and almost everything else except being top dog, unquote. Troopers volunteered to work several days of consecutive 16-hour shifts just to avoid traveling with her. After becoming president, her attitude remained the same. A Secret Service agent was quoted as saying it was obvious that she had a clear dislike for the agents, bordering on hatred, in his opinion. On another occasion, Secret Service agents heard Hillary's daughter Chelsea refer to them as personal trained pigs to some of her friends. One of the agents explained to her that he was willing to put his life on the line to save hers, and he believed that her father, the president, would be shocked if he heard what she just said to her friends. Chelsea's response was, I don't think so. That's what my parents call you. As soon as Clinton was elected governor, he and Hillary formed a partnership with Jim and Susan McDougal in the Whitewater land deal. The McDougals would manage the business and bear most of the risk and liability, while Bill and Hillary would still enjoy a full 50% ownership. In 1979, the Clintons donated a small parcel of land near a river that flowed through Whitewater Estates to the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. The donation was contingent upon construction of a boat ramp. Once the ramp was completed, a paved access road, funded at taxpayers' expense, was built from Highway 101 to the ramp, adding substantially to the overall value and marketability of home sites. Bill Clinton had used the powers of his office to enhance the value of his real estate speculation. Many elderly buyers invested in Whitewater because, after all, it was owned by the governor and his wife. However, they made the mistake of not reading the fine print of the real estate contract. As many of them would find, if they defaulted on their monthly installments for more than 30 days, they would lose all of their equity in the land, regardless of how much they had put down or paid in. The results could be devastating. Clyde Soaps put $3,000 down and faithfully made 35 monthly payments of $244.69. When he fell desperately ill, he could no longer make his payments. Although he had paid $12,000 of the $14,000 price of the lot, he quickly lost the land and all his previous investment. This was a typical case. More than half of those who bought Whitewater lots would lose their land and all their equity payments. Records showed at least 16 different buyers paying in more than $50,000 and never receiving property deeds. Meanwhile, Whitewater carried on a flourishing traffic in repossessions and resales, selling some lots over and over when elderly buyers faltered on their payments. A local businessman said, quote, they screwed people left and right, taking advantage of a bunch of poor old folks on a land deal.
Okay, I had to play that because there are a lot of young listeners that don't even know what Whitewater was all about. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Now, this is the kind of person that you're going to put in the White House again? Appears that way. Boy, I hope not. But you know what I've always said about these two people? Don't get too close to them, because I'll tell you, if you go against them, you might not see the light of day anymore. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org. The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour of the Investigative Journal, and I'm playing a lot of the old information about Bill and Hillary Clinton, because I realize there's a lot of younger listeners that have no idea what these people were like during the years that Bill and Hillary met in Yale, when Bill became governor, etc., etc. The Alamo Ministry knows what they were like. They were targeted by them. And it's a pattern. It's a pattern. For example, let me give you an example. Many times I've said the Jesuits, you know their escapades, the Vatican priests and all the Vatican sexual escapades, their homosexuality, their satanic worshiping in the Vatican, actually murdering people. It's an amazing story, and nothing seems to happen. I've had people on my show, cloistered nuns, other people who have been abused. I've had a girl come on, a Native American, testify she witnessed a priest bury a young Native American baby underneath an altar, and never was there an investigation. So what happens here is, I've always said, they accuse people of the same thing they do, and they falsely accuse them. Tony Alamo's an example. Bill and Hillary Clinton, being an extension of the Jesuits, do the exact same thing. Guess what they've done to Donald Trump? They brought out allegations that, he would fondle women, do certain things. They never got to the real, the things that Clinton has done and has been accused of and basically verified, with people like Paula Jones, who was paid $875,000 in a settlement. Now, we've had Arkansas people that worked for the Arkansas Police Department as well as his bodyguards testify about Bill Clinton's abuse of women, actual even rape of women. And he's never been touched. But then again, they're slandering Trump over allegations that he fondled a woman on an airplane 30 years ago that weren't verified. So they do the same thing against any of their opponents that they've been guilty of but never get charged. Now, we never even get to the point of two things. Remember Joan Rivers? So, I mean, if this is fair game, these are the kind. I just want to show you the kind of people that are in power. When Joan Rivers was going into her doctor's office and was confronted, this was after the big transgender bathroom issue was in the news, and she was asked by a reporter, when are we ever going to have the first transgender in the White House? And she looked back seriously and said, we already do. Everybody in Hollywood knows that Michelle's a transgender and Obama's a homosexual. And she walked away. 33 days later, she was dead. Now, we've heard accusations of Hillary Clinton's lesbianism, but nothing ever is said about it. Shouldn't that be? I mean, Hillary Clinton years ago stated that she was against gay marriage, categorically in 2003, even up until 2011. But in 2013, she changed her view. So I think it's fair game, and covered some information on Yoko Ono. And this is a 3-minute clip. And the headline is, I had an affair with Hillary Clinton in the 70s. Let's listen to what this guy found out.
I know this is an older report from May of this year, but this is just to show you that Hillary Clinton is not a heterosexual. She's a sodomite. Yoko Ono, the one who was married to John Lennon, who was shot many years ago, says, I had an affair with Hillary Clinton in the 1970s. From Los Angeles, Yoko Ono shocked reporters yesterday when she responded to a question concerning the presidential run of Hillary Clinton and the possibility that she could become the first woman president of the United States in American history. The artist and widow of John Lennon, who is in Los Angeles to present a collection of cups and saucers she is exhibiting at the Museum of Modern Art, totally took reporters by surprise by admitting she had not only met the former First Lady at various times during a series of protests against the Vietnam War in New York in the 1970s, but also knew her intimately. The celebrity admitted laughingly to having a fling with her at the time and acknowledged her election would be a great advancement for the LGBT and women's rights in America, she added. See, just like Obama. Hillary Clinton has been hit by a series of allegations of being a lesbian in her career, which could ruin her bid for the presidency, believe some experts. And that would make perfect sense why she didn't care about Bill Clinton and all the women that he had sex with. Why? Because their whole marriage was just a facade. Yoko Ono, when asked about her thoughts about Hillary's run for the presidency, completely took reporters by surprise. We've met many times during the New York Vietnam War protests in the 1970s and became very intimate. We shared many of the same values about sexual equality, fighting against the authoritarian, patriarchal, male-dominated society we were raised in, she explained. We had a brief romantic fling when I lived with John in Manhattan and Hillary was studying at Yale, but eventually we lost touch. I'm amazed how things are going well for her and wish her the best for her campaign, she told reporters during the press conference. Experts believe that the statement could affect the presidential candidate's bid for the presidency, but previous allegations of Hillary Clinton's lesbian past have not seemed to play against the frontrunner for the 2016 Democratic presidential race yet. And why? Well, because there's so many sodomites in the country. That's one reason. And there's many churches that are being led by sodomites, preaching on the pulpit. Not a whole lot, but there are some. Well, just wanted to share that with you. Thank you for listening. Hillary Clinton, the sodomite, going for pretending to be a Christian and pretending to be married. But God knows the truth. Thank you for listening.
Okay, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Hillary Clinton, that's one that's lost, isn't it? Yeah, that story doesn't seem to hit the light of day, as does many of Hillary's money schemes back when she was married to Bill as governor of Arkansas, where it began, and as it still continues today with the Clinton Foundation, crooked as can be, and nothing seems to happen. It's a crime cartel. But, you know, what makes the light of day stories? Remember when Tony Alamo Ministry was targeted in 2008, and 200 media outlets, ABC, CBS, all came out with, headline stories that very evening. Oh, that seems to make it, because they were targeted by the Clintons, the crime cartel, the media, as well as their real leaders behind the scene, the Jesuits and Vatican. Now, why don't we look back a little bit, for those of you who don't know, on some of Hillary's money schemes. Here we go.
Real estate development was not the Clintons' only good fortune. Less than 2 months after launching Whitewater, Hillary Rodham began trading in the cattle futures market. She was allowed to open her account with a $1,000 deposit, rather than the $12,000 that mercantile exchange rules required. On October 11, 1978, her first transaction netted, within days, a $5,300 gain. Within a week, Hillary had won another $7,800 and $7,200 more only days after that. When she got out of the market in July 1979, her $1,000 investment had mushroomed into $100,000. Her 10,000% return on her investment was more than 5 times the rate of profit made by investors that had bought when she did and sold at the peak of the market during the same period. One commodities analyst said that the odds against such prescience and mastery trading would have been about the same as those of finding the Dead Sea Scrolls on the steps of the State House in Little Rock. In 1995, economists at Auburn and North Florida universities ran a computer statistical model of the First Lady's trades for publication in the Journal of Economics and Statistics. They concluded that the probability of Hillary Rodham's having made her trades legitimately was less than 1 in 250 million. Her broker, Robert Bone, was eventually given a 3-year suspension, one of the most severe sanctions short of criminal prosecution. A 1981 audit showed that Chelsea's nanny, Dessie Sanders, was employed at the governor's mansion from the time of Chelsea's birth to the time Clinton left office. The state of Arkansas does not pay for nannies, so Governor Clinton had Dessie Sanders listed on the payroll as a security guard. During the decade of the 1980s, the Clintons' income would put them in the top 3% of American families. Despite this, the Clintons would take nearly $200,000 off their taxes in charitable contributions. Yearly totals range from about $1,000 to well over $2,300. $30 for 3 shower curtains, $40 for an old pair of Bill's running shoes, and various amounts for discarded undershorts and shirts. The 1980s would prove to be very profitable for the Clintons. Ironically, during her husband's run for the presidency, Hillary would accuse the 1980s as being the decade of greed. The Arkansas Development Finance Authority, or ADFA, was set up by Governor Clinton to ease financing for low-income housing and small businesses. The agency's expensive legal work went to favored law firms, its lucrative underwriting to select Wall Street houses and local bond brokers, almost all of them backing Bill Clinton. There was virtually no legislative oversight or public accountability. Governor Clinton himself appointed the ADFA board and personally approved every bond issue and major transaction from 1985 through 1992. In 1985 alone, ADFA issued bonds for more than $700 million. His 1990 campaign received over $400,000 in contributions from those benefiting directly from the publicly guaranteed bonds. In the late 1980s, a nursing home chain called Beverly Enterprises was in financial trouble. A Texas banker and Hillary's employer, the Rose Law Firm, formed a nonprofit corporation to buy the nursing homes. They would make millions in profits while being financed by tax-exempt state bonds. In September 1989, they were about to carry off a deal in Arkansas for the purchase of 32 nursing homes with $83 million in state bonds. At the last moment, the deal collapsed when Attorney General Steve Clark claimed he had been offered $100,000 in campaign money as a bribe to drop his opposition to the Beverly bonds. The partner who devised the nursing home scheme, William Kennedy III, would later be named a counsel to the president, one of the most powerful positions in the Clinton White House. Dan Lassiter was an Arkansas bond dealer and a close friend, as well as a major contributor to then-Governor Clinton. Clinton awarded Lassiter a $30 million bond to install a new police radio system for the Arkansas State Police. During this very period, Lassiter was under investigation by the Arkansas police for cocaine trafficking. Intelligence reports show that the Drug Enforcement Agency had opened a file on Lassiter in 1983. The Attorney General's office in Santa Fe, New Mexico, investigated Lassiter for narcotics trafficking, with possible ties to organized crime. A federal grand jury indicted Dan Lassiter and accused him of conspiring with Bill Clinton's brother Roger Clinton and others to knowingly and willfully possess with the intent to distribute cocaine. In the end, Lassiter was offered a plea agreement and was charged with conspiracy to distribute cocaine. He was paroled after 1 year, most of it spent in a halfway house. He was granted a full pardon by then Governor Clinton. Patty Ann Smith was 16 years old when she fell under the influence of Dan Lassiter. She was still a child, but not for long. In the offices of the U.S. Attorney in Little Rock, she stated, quote, "I was a virgin until 2 months after I met Dan Lassiter. I finally gave in and slept with him. I was introduced to cocaine use by Dan Lassiter when I was 16 years old and a student at North Little Rock High School. Dan Lassiter planned on using me as a prostitute to entertain his friends," unquote. At the time, Lassiter was 40, more than twice her age. She was told...
Now I have to say this. This is the kind of people that he hangs around with, and Hillary hang around with. He pardoned this man, but we have a pastor sitting in prison for crimes he didn't commit, and it seems like the media, the Clinton cartel, Obama, the rest of them just threw away the key and forgot about him. This is what we're dealing with, folks. This is why the petition is important. We've got to make these things known. And I'm playing this just to show you. You know, we're hearing a lot today about, you know, the Clinton Foundation, all the shenanigans and all the criminality going on today. And you wonder why nothing's done. Well, nothing has ever been done. We're going to go back and pick up where we left off.
Told by one of Lassiter's cohorts that, quote, "If I ever betray his trust and hurt Lassiter in any way, I would not see daylight to tell about it anymore," unquote. She said she met Bill Clinton several times, but he was never acting like a governor when I saw him. She claims to have witnessed Governor Clinton taking cocaine on several occasions. In an interview with U.S. attorneys, a 33-year-old Little Rock woman stated that she had been started on cocaine by an associate of Lassiter's. He warned her that she was as good as dead if she ever told anything about him or Lassiter. As a circuit court clerk, Dennis Patrick's income was less than $25,000. Dan Lassiter's brokerage company would secretly run over $100 million through Dennis's account. When the FBI found out, they informed Dennis that he would be an important witness in their investigation of Whitewater. The ATF soon learned that Dennis's life was in danger and informed him that a contract was out on his life. It was then that he began wearing a bulletproof vest. After 2 attempts on his life, the police arrested a man who admitted that he had been contracted for $20,000 to kill Dennis Patrick and his wife. Patsy Thomason was given power of attorney to manage Lassiter's business empire while he was in prison. An employee at Lassiter's firm told Dennis that Thomason was in charge and that she could put an end to his nightmare. But the nightmare continued, and Dennis was stripped of his life, his name, his integrity, everything he had. He eventually fled the state for his safety as well as that of his family. Patsy Thomason was clearly a favorite of Bill Clinton. He appointed her executive secretary of the Arkansas Democratic Party, which helped build the foundations for his presidential bid. After the 1992 elections, she was given one of the most powerful positions in Washington, director of the White House Office of Administration. In this position, Thomason failed to provide proper security clearances for over 100 White House staff members, many of whom were alleged drug users. Under her direction, random drug testing for the White House staff was eliminated. Poultry tycoon Don Tyson heavily financed Bill Clinton's election campaigns throughout his career. In return, he received millions of dollars in state tax breaks, as well as favorable treatment in the form of relaxed environmental regulation.
Okay, we got to, they always do this, they play these stupid commercials. We're back.
As well as favorable treatment in the form of relaxed environmental regulations. Under Clinton, the chicken industry effectively made its own rules in Arkansas. Hillary's amazing $100,000 profit from an initial $1,000 investment was made possible through the influence of Tyson Foods counselor James Blair. After this incident, the relationship between the Clintons and Tyson Foods president Don Tyson came under examination. The resulting revelations were shocking indeed, as evidenced by the following documents from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, which linked Don Tyson to drug trafficking. One file cited an informant who said Tyson was involved in drug traffic and stolen property. Another stated that Tyson's company aircraft was being utilized to smuggle drugs from Florida to Springdale, Arkansas. A memorandum on July 19, 1988 is centered on Don Tyson's illegal use and distribution of cocaine. It calls for a combined investigation team of FBI, DEA, IRS, and the state police. There were documents that referred to alleged hitmen employed by Tyson to kill drug dealers who owed him money. In one of them, an informer stated that Daddy Don, Donald Tyson, can put out the word to take care of you. She gave as an example a female who was found in a culvert near Highway 71 outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay, so I wanted to make this clear for you if you listen to that. Now, people have asked me, okay, Greg, you put up these all this information. I've gotten information over the years on the Clinton body count. And they go, well, how could he be involved? Well, if he's close to Tyson, Tyson's close to some mob hitmen, how do you think it gets done? Let's continue.
The woman stated that she was afraid that she might get killed, as she understood that Don Tyson was a drug dealer who brought drugs in from California by truck and airplanes. And a confidential informant claimed to have information on an alleged hitman for Don Tyson. None of the allegations against Don Tyson have led to criminal charges. Police officers who tried to mount a case against Tyson were destroyed by their superiors in the state police.
Let's look at Mena, Arkansas.
Mena, Arkansas is tucked away in the remote Ouachita Mountains of western Arkansas. It became the site of one of the most enduring conspiracy theories of the late 20th century. The core allegation is that the airport was used to transport weapons to the Nicaraguan Contras, with collusion and cover-up implicating Governor Bill Clinton. It was a multi-billion-dollar gun-running, drug smuggling, and money laundering operation. Barry Steele was a legend in the cocaine trade. His drug runs were flown in from Latin America, loads averaging 300 pounds of cocaine and worth at least tens of millions of dollars, and parachuted onto remote sites in Arkansas. By the sheer magnitude of the drugs and money its flights generated, tiny Mena, Arkansas became, in the 1980s, one of the world centers of the narcotics trade, and the base of what many believe was the single largest cocaine smuggling operation in U.S. history. Larry Douglas Brown was Bill Clinton's favorite among the troopers assigned as his personal bodyguards. Brown gave hundreds of pages of testimony under oath and supporting documentation that the governor had clearly been aware of the arms and drug running out of Mena as early as 1984. The state trooper watched in despair while the governor did nothing about it. In October of 1984, Barry Seal and Brown had lunch at Cajun's Wharf in Little Rock, a popular restaurant in the Arkansas River bottoms. In conversations over the next few weeks, Seal casually referred to Clinton as the Gov, and acted like he knew the governor, Brown recalled. By the summer of 1985, Seal became a scapegoat and was sentenced to a halfway house in Baton Rouge. It was there that assassins found him and gunned him down in his white Cadillac on a rainy February night in 1986. IRS agent Bill Duncan and State Police Detective Russell Welch had compiled a mammoth investigative file on the Mena operation. The material became part of an eventual 35-volume, 3,000-page Arkansas State Police archive, a meticulous presentation of the Mena case for a grand jury. However, the cases were effectively suppressed. Duncan and Welch were not even called to testify before grand juries, state or federal. Duncan and Welch watched the Mena inquiry systematically quashed and their own careers destroyed.
So you can get the pattern here, and I could go on and on. That's just the tip of the iceberg on Mena. We know about a number of others who have been killed. And we'll get back with a little bit more information. Hopefully this helps some of our younger listeners who don't realize really what Hillary Clinton is all about. The interesting thing is, I believe there's many Republicans in the same boat. Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.